big no, no.
So, like, what if I told you about a time the Pope, man, put another Pope on trial? And here's the kicker. The dude on trial was, dead. What the fuck, man? Hey, man, welcome to the inaugural hangout of the Big Knowbowski. I'm your host. I'm the No, his knownness, or, El Noarino. So that's what you call me, Pull up a rug, man. It'll really tie the room together. Grab yourself a beverage of choice. I've got a Caucasian here, and just, take it easy. Here we frickin' go. The scene of the crime. A real bummer in 9th century Rome, man. You can't understand the trial without understanding the scene, man? This whole thing wasn't just some random fit of madness, my dude. It was the result of a total fucking power vacuum, a real mess that had been building for a while. Historians call this time the Saeculum Obscurum. That's Latin for the dark century, man. And man, was it ever. The late 9th century in Rome was a time of serious intrigue, corruption, misrule, madness, even fucking murder. Right. So, the whole premise here, the whole what have you, is that sometimes you look back at the lanes of history, right? And you see some things that are just, well, they're stranger than fiction, man. Real head scratchers. And that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna look at some of history's weirdest truths, try to figure out what was in their heads, and just abide. And for our first time at bat, we're starting with a real doozy. We're talking about history's most bizarre trial, the story of a fella named Pope Formosus and what happened after he checked out. It's called the Cadaver Synod, and believe me, it was a real gutter ball for the papacy. So, to really get what's happening here, we gotta roll back the clock to a real messy time in Rome, man. Way back. The chair of St. Peter wasn't so much a holy office as it was a political prize, man. Something the big shot Roman families and foreign kings were fucking wrestling over. See, man, the whole thing goes back to this cat named Charlemagne. For a while, his big Frankish empire was like the stabilizing force for the papacy. He was a protector. But after he was gone, his empire crumbled, and that old order just fucking fell apart. Without a strong emperor to keep things in line, it was a free-for-all, man. Now, you had a couple of major teams in this league, a couple of factions really vying for power. First, you got the Spoletans. These guys were a fucking powerful Italian family, man, a real dynasty. You had Guy the Third, his son, Lambert, and the matriarch of the whole shebang, Empress Agiltrude, a real formidable woman, man. And in the other lane, you had the last remnants of the old guard, the Carolingians. The main player here was a German king, Arnulf of Carinthia. What's with these names, man? Where was I? Oh, right, yeah. The stakes? Well, man, the stakes were for all the marbles, man. The title of Holy Roman Emperor. And there was only one guy who could hand out that trophy, the fucking Pope. So the papacy became this political hot potato. Everybody wanted a pope who was on their side, who would crown their guy. And that brings us to the man at the center of this whole sordid affair, a fella named Formosus, the man of the hour. Who was this Formosus, man? So to get why they dig a guy up, you gotta get the guy, you know? And Formosus's whole career was this tangled web of high-stakes diplomacy and major political fallout. It really set the stage for what fucking happened later. Before he was Pope, he was the Bishop of Porto, and by all accounts, he was a pretty successful dude. Pope Nicholas I sent him on a mission to convert the Bulgarians, and he did a bang-up job. Made a real great impression on their leader, Khan Boris Michael. But that's where the trouble started. The next pope, a guy named John VIII, got some real beef with Formosus, man. In 876, Pope John accused him of all sorts of things, that he was corrupting the Bulgarians, that he was conspiring to usurp the papacy for himself, and that he was betraying the emperor at the time, Charles the Bald. It was a real laundry list, man. So Formosus gets excommunicated and has to flee Rome. A real bummer. Eventually, though, man, the wheel turns. Big wheel keeps on turning. John VIII dies, another pope comes and goes, and Formosus is brought back from exile. And in 891, he gets elected pope himself, man. Far out, right? But the thing is, he inherited an impossible situation, a real fucking split. First, he crowned the Spoletan dude, Lambert, as co-emperor. But then, man, and this is the crux of the whole biscuit, he apparently got nervous about the Spoletans' aggression, so he invited their rival, Arnulf of Carinthia, the German king, to come on down and invade Italy. And Arnulf does, man, and in 896, Formosus crowns him emperor. In the eyes of the Spoletans, this was the ultimate fucking betrayal. This is the conventional story anyway, the reason for the trial. And then the timing gets real convenient. Just months after this coronation, both Formosus and Arnulf die, man. Just fucking gone. We don't know if it was foul play or just, their time. But man, the timing couldn't have been better for the Spoletans. Which, man, left the door wide open for them to come marching right back into Rome. All right, here we go, man. The trial of a dead man. All right, man. This is where the story goes from a political drama to something else entirely. We're talking about a wicked nexus of political fucking vengeance, some really twisted legal theater, and just ritual desecration. It's a dark fucking scene, man. All right. Is January 897. The new pope, Stephen VI, Derp, is a Spolitan ally, and he, backed by Empress Agiltrude and Lambert, gives the fucking order. Dig him up. So, they go to the tomb of Pope Formosus, who's been buried for months now, and they pull his corpse out of the ground, man. They drag the decaying body back to the basilica, dress it up in full papal vestments, the whole fucking 9 yards, man. And they prop the corpse up on the papal throne to face the charges. I mean, can you picture it? One account even says that as they dragged his body, man, blood flowed from his mouth. It's just, there are no words. Stephen VI starts laying out the charges, man. First, perjury. He says Formosus violated the oath he swore to Pope John VIII that he would never return to Rome. Second, illegal ambition. And third, the big one, a fucking canonical crime called episcopal translation. That's a fancy way of saying you can't just move from being bishop of one place
in his case Porto, to being a bishop of another, like Rome. It was seen as like cheating on your original fucking church, man. You're married to Porto, you can't just up and move in with Rome. And to top off this whole gnarly spectacle, man, they appoint a young deacon to stand next to the corpse. His job? To answer the charges on behalf of the dead man. Unfucking believable, man. Can you even? The verdict, of course, was never in doubt. Guilty. The punishment was what they call a damnation memoriae. A damnation of memory, man. They wanted to erase this fucking dude from history, man. All of Formosus's acts, his ordinations, everything he did as Pope, null and fucking void, invalid. Then they got physical, man. They took the corpse's right hand and, man, they hacked off the 3 fingers he used for blessings. Just hacked him right fucking off. And for the final indignity, man, they stripped the body of its holy robes, man, dragged it through the streets of Rome, and threw it into the Tiber River. All right, and now, man, the aftermath and the cleanup crew. Now, you'd think that would be the end of it, case closed, but that's not how this story rolls. Turns out, man, putting a dead pope on trial and chucking his body in the fucking river, well, it just doesn't play well with the public, man. It backfired, big time. The people of Rome were horrified, man. Their shock and revulsion turned into outrage, and that outrage turned into a full-blown popular uprising against Pope Stephen the fucking Sixth. The city rioted. Stephen was overthrown, man, tossed in prison, man, and later that same year, he was strangled in his cell, man. That's what you get, Larry, or, Stephen. So, after that whole fucking mess, a couple of new popes came in, Theodore II and John IX, who were basically the cleanup crew, man. Their job was to fix this disaster. John IX calls a big-ass meeting, the Synod of Ravenna in 898. And get this, man, Emperor Lambert, the Spoletan dude, was even fucking there. They made a few key decisions. First, they formally condemned and nullified the Cadaver Synod. All records of that grotesque trial were to be burned. Second, they restored Formosus's honor, and crucially, they revalidated all his ordinations. But here's the wild part, man. The Synod officially stated that Arnulf's coronation, the whole reason for the supposed betrayal, had been extorted for force. Which, man, really complicates that simple fucking revenge story, doesn't it? And the story gets even stranger, man. There's this legend, after some fishermen pulled Formosus's body from the Tiber, it started being associated with fucking miracles. The story goes that when they brought his corpse back into St. Peter's Basilica for a proper burial, man, the images of the saints on the walls bowed down to it. Whoa, far out. Of course, the whole beef wasn't over. A few years later, another pope, Sergius III, an anti-Formosan, came to power and reversed the reversal. He reversed that shit, man. He re-condemned Formosus. Just goes to show you how deep this factionalism ran. It was a friggin' cycle, man. Now for the big question. What was that all about, man? So, you look at all this, and you gotta ask the big question. What the fuck was that all about, man? I mean, why go through all that trouble? It seems like pure madness, but scholars will tell you there were some complex, quote, overlapping motivations, unquote. The most common theory is straight up fuggin' political revenge. The thinking is that Empress Agilitrude and Lambert cooked up this whole scheme to delegitimize Formosus for crowning their enemy, Arnulf, man. If you nullify all of Formosus's acts, well, then Arnulf's coronation is invalid. Simple as that. Tough titty. It's a political hit job, man. But here's the rub, man. A year later, at a synod with Lambert right there in the room, the church officially declared that Formosus had been forced to crown Arnulf. That kind of takes the wind out of the sails of the whole betrayal motive, you know, man? Another angle is about factional power consolidation. Stephen VI was a Spolitan dude. By nullifying Formosus's ordinations, he could clear out all the bishops and priests his predecessor had appointed. It's a way to clean house and put your own fuggin' guys in charge, man.
But there's another theory, man. A deeper cut. This one explains not just that it happened, but why it was so fuggin' theatrical. So brutal, man. This theory argues that the trial wasn't just political, it was a ritual designed to prevent the formation of a saints cult around Formosus. Think about it, man. Formosus had a reputation for being a holy man from his missionary days. His death, coming so soon after Arnulf's invasion and coronation, could easily be spun as a martyrdom, man. And those fuggin' miracles they said happened when his body was recovered, that suggests a popular cult was already frickin' starting to form. The people were starting to see him as a saint. And if you look at the actions of the trial through that lens, it all makes a sick kind of fuggin' sense. Desecrating a tomb, mutilating a body, throwing it into a river, man. These are all classic ways to stop a saints cult in its frickin' tracks, man. You do it to prevent the creation of holy relics. You do it so there's no pilgrimage site. You are ritually polluting the dude's memory to make sure he can never be venerated. This theory, man, it explains the sheer gnarly spectacle of it all way better than just politics. You know, I have to say it, dude. The big no abides. So there you have it, man. The story of a pope who is so controversial, man, they had to put his corpse on trial. And even then, they couldn't make it fuggin' stick. It's a wild ride through the dark alleys of history, man. It's really a kind of cautionary tale, you know, man? About what happens when politics and power and religion get all tangled up in a really, really bad way. A reminder that even the highest offices aren't immune to the worst of human fuggin' nature. Goes to show, man, even in the cosmic bowling alley of history, sometimes the biggest players roll a gutter ball right into the Tiber. Strikes and gutters, man. Ups and fuggin' downs. Well, that's just like my opinion, man. Thanks for hanging out for this first episode. It's been a real frickin' pleasure. We'll do this again real soon for our next hangout. Until then, take it easy. The big no abides.